Joining us now with their reaction to all of this unfolding before our eyes, this evening's political panel. Jim Kessler, Executive Vice President for Policy at Third Way, our Democratic strategist, alongside Republican strategist Brittany Martinez, Executive Director of Principles First. We want to hear from both of you on this. Jim, your reaction to what we're seeing here, Gavin Newsom suing the President of the United States, the President doubling down today, not only rhetorically, but literally adding another 2,000 National Guard troops in Los Angeles. Is this a political battle?
Yes, it is.
Is it more than that?
I think it's first and foremost a political battle, and I do feel like, look, I think Gavin Newsom has brought a knife to a gunfight, to be honest with you. This is what Donald Trump said he was going to do. He's doing it. It feels like Democrats were caught flat-footed here. Violence in Los Angeles, and there's not that much violence there, but such as there is, that is good for Donald Trump. He wants that. He'd like to see violence in more cities. We have a president who wants violence in the cities. That helps him politically. You know, I think Democrats have to be ready in all cities to know what they're going to do to counter that.
Well, Brittany, you obviously have a lot of experience in California. You worked as the California press secretary for former Speaker Kevin McCarthy of the state. What is your reaction to what we've seen borne witness to over the last 5 days?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, Americans have the First Amendment right to freedom of speech. What they don't have the right to do is riot and loot the way that they've been doing. And anyone who's been violent should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But with that being said, what we haven't seen many times in our history is the United States president going and sending the National Guard into a state where the governor hasn't requested those resources.
So you see Newsom as having a good standing here as he sues the administration?
Well, what we've seen is from folks on the ground is that they said that they had it under control. And I'm not there. I can't say it from my own eyes. But we have a president who is a conservative, a Republican, who believes in limited government. That's traditionally what Republicans have believed in. And he's using his executive authority to go into a state where they said, we're good to go. Like, we don't need you yet. There were law enforcement officers who also parroted the same thing, and so it's concerning. And I think to all the people who are chaos agents and are being destructive, you're taking away from the message that is, this is a concern. We should be paying attention. And to the executive order that the president signed, it didn't even mention California. So to your point about Democrat governors preparing, I don't think you're wrong there.
Well, so let's get into this a little bit more from the Democratic point of view, because the narrative now is that Democrats are so busy making commercials and bumper stickers. You've already won the midterms based on the optics that we're seeing in Los Angeles. And I think you're looking at this with a little bit more nuance. What if this does start to spread to other cities in blue states?
Well, I expect it's going to spread. I mean, Donald Trump has just thrown gasoline on the fire in Los Angeles. This is good for him. This is what he wants. And I imagine it's going to spread to other places. I also want to be clear that the people who are standing on burnt-out cars holding up Mexican flags, they're not Democrats either. They're not going to listen to what Democrats say is good for them for the midterms. I do think that Democratic governors and mayors need to be ready so that when there's some chaos there, they are showing they have got it under control completely. Maybe there's some curfews that they put in there so that Donald Trump does not have an excuse to douse the flames with gasoline.
Well, Donald Trump, of course, has said that this is really why he was elected president, that the country wanted him to focus on these issues of crime and immigration. Does that, though, as we see the military literally going into U.S. cities, Brittany, risk backfiring on him? Is this really, in your mind, what people voted for?
When we talk about immigration, I mean, you're right. People want us to have a stronger stance on immigration. I do think that for a long time, our generosity has been abused. But with that being said, the way in which it's done matters to the American voters. And I think that when we see polling after this next week or so, I think we're going to see a difference, because what we saw is just these ICE raids, especially in a place like California. I'm from California. I grew up there. I had friends whose, sadly, parents were undocumented and were deported in high school when they were 2 kids and both parents got deported, right? And so it's families, it's these stories. It's not just another number and another figure to be looking at. And the last thing I'll say is that this weekend, when it is the president's parade, or I'm sorry, the military parade, the president's parade, is that he's already let out a message saying any protesters are going to be dealt with full force.
Yeah.
And that's the president of the United States. We have the right to assembly, to peaceful protest, and you're already making the assumptions that this is going to turn into something violent. Him signaling that means to me that he's trying to cause a fight.
We've got a minute left. Jim, how worried are you about this big military parade on the president's birthday on Saturday? The optics, the vision that we just heard could be difficult here.
I expect there's going to be some performance artistry going on both sides here. But I do want to say on what's happening with the president on immigration, this is what people did vote for. I am not surprised in the least of what is happening and that he's deploying troops. He said this over and over and over again. So he's doing what he promised to do. I'm not sure it's going to be popular, but this is what he promised to do.
Promises made, promises kept, perhaps. Jim Kessler and Brittany Martinez, our political panel this evening. Thank you so much.